guys, it's Jordan Blankenship with Recruit Creative, and today we're going to talk about Colorado eliminating unlimited over-the-counter elk tags for archery. OTC archery elk tags in Colorado has been Colorado's bread and butter for as long as most hunters can remember, and for most people, Colorado is the first state they begin elk hunting in because getting a tag is as easy as driving to Walmart, buying a tag the day of or even the day before your hunt, and setting out in the vast number of over-the-counter units that essentially allowed you to hunt a majority of the state. Colorado, if you're not familiar, has just voted to end the availability of the over-the-counter archery elk hunting tags for non-residents starting in 2025. This decision is aimed at reducing overcrowding in hunting areas, improving the hunting experience, and better managing elk populations. The Colorado Parks and Wildlife Commission decided to move all over-the-counter archery units to a limited entry system managed through the annual draw. So essentially, Colorado has said, hey, if you want to tag, you know we're going to have to go through the draw and pick the area you want to hunt. Now, what's making people really nervous about this decision is that there's a lot of units in Colorado that it's really hard to draw a tag because it allows CPW to set a limit on the amount of tags in certain areas. So if you're hunting an area that is a really popular area for over-the-counter hunters, it might mean that you're not able to draw a tag in an area that you're used to hunting and are familiar with. So for this video, we're going to address some of those concerns. We have some data, and if you've never followed one of our videos before, what we like to do, I got the laptop here in front of me, I got all the data pulled up, and I like to put you inside the screen. We got screen recording going on where you're able to see the data that I'm seeing and see the data that residents, non-residents, and people that have been hunting the state for a long time use to determine what units are available to draw with the amount of points you have. If you're an over-the-counter hunter, or maybe you're someone who is planning on hunting the state in upcoming years and we're planning on hunting over-the-counter, you might not have any points saved up at all. So there's a lot of anxiety around that. And so we're gonna dive into units that were historically over-the-counter that have been moved to a draw in the past. So 2025 is not the first time Colorado has taken units and said, hey, hunting pressure is really high, we're gonna turn this into a draw. In fact, you can go back to 2020, 2021, 2022, and even last year where the Parks Department or CPW said, hey, these areas are getting really overcrowded, we're gonna put them to a draw. We're gonna go back in and we're gonna look into some numbers and see what happened to those units when they were moved from a unlimited over-the-counter draw or over-the-counter tag to a draw, and see if it affected availability of tags for hunters who wanted to hunt those areas. And I think you'll be surprised to see what we find out, and hopefully will alleviate some of the stress and anxiety hunters have leading up into the 2025 season. But a little bit more about this decision by CPW to eliminate these tags. So the decisions follow concerns around the increasing trend of non-residents purchasing more over-the-counter licenses than residents, leading to overcrowded hunting conditions. So what that means is in 2023, non-residents actually purchased 53% of the over-the-counter archery licenses. So that surpassed resident purchases. So there were actually more non-residents hunting in Colorado during the archery seasons in these areas than there were residents. Which, if you're familiar with states like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, most states cap the non-resident hunting quota to somewhere between 5 and 10%. That's an average, but it's usually around that area. So you'll find that 90% of the hunters are residents, 5 to 10% are non-residents. You'll also see in those states that the size and just the quality of bulls are usually much higher in states like Arizona, Nevada, New Mexico, because of this, the state managing their elk populations. So while some people see this as a way for the state to cut tags, other people see this as a way for the state to really increase bull quality in the state. And for a state that has more elk than any other state in the union, that's something a lot of people are really excited about. Another thing that can't be overlooked is the introduction of wolves to the state. With some feeling that the state is trying to get ahead of these wolves and the amount of elk that they're going to have an impact on in the future. So if you look at areas like the Idaho Panhandle when wolves were introduced, Yellowstone, or really any area where wolves were not historically at and then were introduced, we see a sharp decline in elk populations, at least for the first few years. So CPW is trying to juggle these wolves that were introduced, whether hunters or CPW wanted them or not, juggling that also with the fact that we have unlimited elk tags to as many non-residents who want to hunt, and CPW had no control over where these elk hunters were going. In theory, they could all go to the same exact area and affect one herd way more than the others. So this change has sparked a lot of mixed reactions, some arguing that it's going to improve the quality of hunting by reducing the pressure on elk herds and potentially increase the size and quality of bulls. But others are arguing that it might lead to increased competition and limiting opportunity. As we said before, if everyone ends up wanting to hunt the same area, CPW is going to put a cap on the amount of hunters who can hunt in certain units, and that's going to make it harder to draw those tags. We already see that now with units in Colorado, such as 201, where it can take close to 25 to 30 years to draw a tag to hunt that area. If you're not familiar with how preference points work, essentially every time you're unsuccessful drawing a tag, you get 1 point. So if you put in for a unit that you want to hunt and you don't draw a tag, you'll get a point, and then if you do that every year, your points start to build up until you're eventually successful in getting a tag. A lot of hunters, they don't want to wait 5, 10, 15 years to hunt. They want to hunt every year. And over-the-counter tags allow them to do that. What's important is that when we look at the numbers and we look at the data that the CPW puts out, you'll find that there are still a lot of areas in Colorado that you can hunt every single year. And if you're a little bit good at math, you can even build points while doing so in the process. And if you want to learn more about that, it's a little more advanced, but we talk about it in some of our previous videos, and it's something that everyone on our team utilizes, where we're actually able to gain points and hunt elk every year, which is really great. So whether your opinion is that this is a poor decision or a great decision by Colorado, it really no longer matters, because for the next 5 years, there will be no over-the-counter tags available for non-residents, and that has been set in stone. Colorado does a 5-year period where these will be in effect. So from 2025 to 2030, these tags will not be available. So how does that affect hunters, and what do you need to do to go elk hunting in our state in 2025 and beyond? So in this video, like we said before, it's really aimed at either hunters who have been hunting over-the-counter units or hunters that were planning on hunting over-the-counter units now or in the near future. You need to be confident that if you're planning a trip like this, that you're actually going to be able to draw a tag, and I'm going to show you how to do that and hopefully alleviate any concerns or anxiety. So first things first, how do you apply for the draw in Colorado? So now that you can no longer drive to the state, walk into Walmart and buy a tag, you're going to have to know how you can put in for the draw in the state. So Colorado's draw is unique. Every state is different. Colorado is no different. It's a very unique process that consists of a primary draw held in March, a secondary draw held in June, and a leftover tag list that becomes available in the fall. Now, for all intents and purposes, for you wanting to go hunting, let's just say in 2025, the best chance you have of getting a tag is to put in for the primary draw held in March. March is very early, and what you'll see on a lot of the Facebook pages, forums, people inevitably at the end of summer, July, August, like it is now, they say, hey, I've always wanted to go elk hunting in September, I'm gonna go this fall. Well, unfortunately, primary and the secondary draw is over, and it's going to be nearly impossible to get a tag, and that turns a lot of people away. So if you're watching this video now thinking that you want to go hunting in 2025, right now is the time to start planning your 2025 hunt. You have to get an early head start on it because the draw is so much earlier than the actual season. So set an alert on your phone, set something that'll tell you in March to come check out the CPW page and start putting in for the draw. You're going to want to do research way before that. We do most of our research November, December, January for the upcoming season, so almost a year in advance. So Get ahead of it now, start preparing for your 2025 hunt. But the way the draw works is that in the primary draw, tags are released. Any tags that are left over from the primary draw will then go to a secondary draw. Any tags left over from the secondary draw will then be put in the leftover draw. So whatever the tag allotment is at the beginning, once those tags run out, they're done. Oftentimes, by the time you get to the secondary draw, in most units, there's no bull tags left, which is why I'm telling you to do it during the primary draw. But just to put, just as an example, let's say we're trying to hunt unit 100, and the state says, okay, we're gonna have 1,000 tags for unit 100. If 800 people apply to those tags in the primary draw, all 800 will receive a tag because the number of applicants is less than the amount of tags available. The extra 200 tags will then be put into the secondary draw, and however many people put into the secondary draw, let's say another 800 people put into the secondary draw. Well, now instead of having a 100% chance like you had in the primary draw, now you have 800 people vying for 200 tags. You only have a 25% chance of drawing a tag. So your odds go down immensely when you wait for the secondary draw, which is why, again, apply in the primary draw, which is held in March every year. The dates will come out closer to time. Usually the beginning of April is the deadline. I say to go on there and do it early. But let's say you know what unit you want to hunt already. If you're already an over-the-counter archery elk hunter, you know what unit you want to hunt. It's as easy as just going onto the big game brochure, which we're going to jump into my computer now so you can see it. But right here we have the big game brochure. So if you're not familiar with this, I would recommend reading this brochure, at least the portions that you're going to use. So right now we're in the elk hunting portion. Download this, keep it on your phone when you're in the woods in case you have any questions. Everything you need to know is here. But this is the elk hunting section. It's going to tell you your dates. It's going to give you your preference point code here. So when you apply the draw, you have to know what code you want. So if you're not going to hunt till 2026, 2027, 5 years, start putting in points now. You can go in, enter these preference points, and they'll give you a point. And by the time you're ready to hunt, you'll have a stash of points to guarantee that you're going to be able to hunt the area you want to hunt. And we're going to show you how to look at those odds here in a second. But we would scroll down to our unit, and for argument's sake, we said we wanted to hunt unit 100. I don't even know if there is a unit 100. There's not. Let's use unit 80. And the reason we're going to use unit 80, like we said at the beginning of the video, is there's a lot of units that were historically over-the-counter tags that were moved to a draw previous to the 2025 decision. So in 2021, unit 80 was moved to a draw from an over-the-counter unit. So we can use the data from unit 80 and other units to interpolate data to see what's going to happen, or we can at least estimate what's going to happen to your unit when it gets moved from an over-the-counter unlimited system to a limited entry draw system. So for unit 80, let's say we want to apply to it. How do we apply to the draw? You already know what unit you want to hunt. You would come to the hunt code here, and this is what you're looking for. So if you're not familiar with how to read hunt codes, I would read up on them at least a little bit where you have a general understanding, because this is how everything's going to be listed in the data we look at here shortly. But for the hunt code, if we know we want to hunt unit 80, we're set on unit 80, you would take this code EE08001A. You would take that code, and when the draw opens in March, you would simply go to the park's CPW page. You would go to things to do. So from the things to do page, there will be a tab on the front of this page that'll say apply for the big game draw. So you'll see hunting, big game. If you go to this big game page, you will see everything you need to see. They'll have videos here with updates. They have the 2024 big game brochure you can find. You can view leftover licenses. When it comes time for the draw, there will be a big sticker here that says apply for the draw. You will take this code, you will come to this site, you will click apply for the draw. It's not here now because it's not draw season. You will click apply for the draw. It's going to ask you your information. You'll put in your information accurately, and then there's going to be a section where you will type in this hunt code exactly how it is listed. And if you're curious what these numbers mean, they always mean the same thing. The first letter is the species, so it's E for elk. If we were to scroll to the deer, they would all start with a D. All the elks start with an E. All the moose start with an M, so on and so forth. So you know when you see an E, it's an elk. The next number or letter is the sex. So if you scroll through here, you'll see most of these are also E. That means they're either sex tags. If you go down here to like unit 20, you'll see that there's some M's and some F's. M for male, F for female, E for either sex, followed by the unit. 080 is the unit code, followed by the season. That means it's first, followed by the weapon type, A for archery. So you read this as elk, either sex, unit 80, first archery season. So if you're wanting to hunt elk during archery in unit 80, you take this code, you go to this site, you'll click, it'll be right here, you'll click apply for the big game draw, you'll put your information in, you'll click you want to apply for an elk tag, and you will put that code in exactly how it is listed, and that is how you apply. So it is as easy as that if you already know what unit you want to apply for. Now, you might be saying, I know what unit I want to apply for, but I don't know if there's going to be enough tags available. We're going to look into that next. So on this same page, things to do, you can scroll down. We're going to scroll down a little bit here, but you will be able to find hunting statistics. Give me 1 second here. We're going to find them. So you can go to draw results and preference points. And this is going to give you previous year's draw results. And you're going to scroll over here to hunting statistics. Now, from the hunting statistics page that we're on right now, you can scroll down. We're looking for elk, so you're going to hit view elk hunting statistics. Scroll down again, and here's all of your reports. So this is all the information you need to know for hunting and if you're going to be able to draw. Now, here's the problem with 2025 is that all of this data here is for years prior. So since none of the over-the-counter areas have any data from 2024, because right now they're over-the-counter, they're unlimited. So there's no draw-out data being put on them because they've never had to be drawn out. So what does that mean? If we go to, and this is the same, I already have it pulled up, but this is the draw-out data. If we go to unit 80, which was an over-the-counter unit up until 2021. So up until 2021, this was a part of the over-the-counter plethora of units. In 2021, the state said, we want to make it into a draw. We can look at this data from unit 80 and we can see what happened to this unit when that happened. So if we look at unit 80 here, we know it is because we can read the code, elk, either sex, 08001 archery. Drawn at final level. So drawn at final level is really important because that's telling you the final level it is drawn. Which sounds straightforward, but then when you start looking at the numbers, it can sometimes be difficult to read. So if we look at unit 80, this is the non-resident right here. You'll see that for unit 80, second choice, 112 out of 803. That's confusing to read because it reads as if only 112 people out of 100 or 803 got a tag, but that would be incorrect because this is the second choice. So since this is drawn at the final level, what you'll find is that anyone who put this unit as their first choice, and when you go in to apply, they will be listed as, do you want to do your first choice, second choice, third choice, and so on down. If you were to select unit 80 as your first choice, no matter how many preference points you have, if you have 0 or if you have 20, you would draw Unit 80 with 0 preference points. It's important to note that Unit 80 has now been a draw for several years from being over the counter. So even several years later, as point creep goes up, every year it gets harder and harder to draw. Meaning the first year Unit 80 became a draw, it was even easier to draw than it is now. We can use that data along with some other units, and we've looked into several other units in the area that were once over the counter, now draw. All of them follow the same pattern, which is the first year that they become a draw, people with 0 points, statistically speaking, can almost always draw them with 100% accuracy or confidence. Now, the caveat to that is Colorado has never seen, and we'll go back to the big game brochure here. We're gonna scroll up to the over-the-counter units. So here are every unit that is currently over-the-counter in Colorado. So all of these gray units. You can see down here, Unit 80, Unit 81. These Mesa units, they used to be over-the-counter, they went to a draw. These units up here, they used to be over-the-counter, they went to a draw year recently. So what you'll see is that a lot of these areas have already experienced something similar to what we're gonna see to all of these gray units here now. Looking at the data, we can say with some confidence that you should be able to draw your over-the-counter unit with 0 points. There's gonna be comments in here saying you can't know that for certain, and that is true. If you are hunting one of the most popular units and a bunch of people put in, more people than the state allocates tags for, you might not draw at 0 points. There's no way to know what the most popular units are until the draw results come out, because the state has not been keeping track of who is hunting where. That being said, the sheer number of these units versus the number of tags that the state has said they're going to allow tells us that just mathematically speaking, the chances of that unit being your unit is lower than the chances of you picking a unit that will have tags. So there will be a few of these units listed in gray that are unlucky, but we don't know which ones for sure until it happens. But the vast majority of these will be able to be drawn out at 0 points. So if this is your first time putting in for the draw for a unit that you've never had to draw for, my recommendation is put it as your first choice in the first primary draw, and you will have your best chance of drawing that tag, and chances are you will be able to draw it at 0 points. Now, if you're somebody who has never hunted Colorado and you don't know what unit you want to choose yet, we make a lot of videos on how to e-scout, a lot of those areas. These gray units are going to be a good place to start, because like we said, chances are you're going to be able to draw with 0 points. Next year, when you come to the big game brochure, you're not going to see this map because there will not be any over-the-counter units. My suggestion would be to pull up the 2024 Colorado brochure, find these gray units, do some e-scouting, find one you like, and apply for that unit. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can always go to the drawn out section here, and what you're looking for in this drawn out section. So how to read this, and I know we're jumping around a lot, but say you don't know what unit you want to choose, but you want to make sure you're going to be able to hunt. What you're looking for is either a unit that says leftover NA, because that means that there are still tags left over. So there's tags in the leftover draw, meaning if you put in for the primary draw, you will draw a tag. Choice 2 means that if you put it as your choice 1, you would have drawn a tag. And if you want the best chance of going hunting, you need to do the primary draw and put the unit you want to hunt as your first choice. If you do that, you will draw any of these units that say choice number 2. You'll draw any of these units that say leftover. Units you will not be able to draw doing that are units like 67 here for first archery, drawn out at 7 preference points, and only one person with 7 preference points out of 39 drew. So what that means is you could put in for this every year, and it would take, on average, about 7 years to draw. So you see a lot of new hunters, they go in, they scout an area, they put in for the draw and they don't draw it, they get really discouraged. It's because they weren't looking at the data they needed to look at. So come to this page, find a unit that says choice 2, choice 3, leftover, or oftentimes you can even find one that says 0 preference points. So if you look here at 83, and this is second rifle, maybe you don't want to rifle hunt, but it's just a good example. At 0 preference points, 19 of 20 people drew. That means if you have 0 points right now, 19 of 20 people drew last year. So you have an overwhelmingly good chance of drawing even with 0 preference points. And that's what that number means. This data is put up every year. You can historically go back to 23, 22, 21, which is what we did to look up those historically over-the-counter draw area or over-the-counter tags that are now draw areas, and how we can be fairly confident that the unit you've been hunting as an over-the-counter unit is a unit you're going to be able to draw at 0 points. Because if the unit was that populated and crowded, they would have moved it to a draw in the previous years like they did with Unit 80, Unit 81, the Grand Mesa units. So hopefully that gives you a little more confidence going into 2025. Hopefully you know a little bit more about how to use this drawn out chart to see how to find units that you can draw, and see maybe you have a bunch of points and you want to say, hey, what units can I draw with 4 or 5 points? This table here is a great place to see what units are drawn out at what choice or at what unit. We've done a lot of videos in the past. We get a lot of negative comments on these videos. A lot of people don't like this information being out there. The truth is, guys, the only way we're going to be able to continue doing what we're doing if we promote and we help other hunters get into the woods. So hopefully this video helps you do that. If you know someone who's looking to get outdoors, help them get outdoors. Don't discourage them. We need good information out there to help people get out, help people get hunting. We need as much support as we can in the outdoor industry. We need to stick together because the people who are trying to keep us from hunting, they stick together, they team up very well. Hunters, we're the one group where we want to fight each other more than we want to bond together. So use this data the best you can. If something's not making sense, I babbled on a lot. If something's not making sense, shoot us a message on Instagram. We're on there as Recruit Creative. You can always comment on our YouTube video. You can send us an email. We'll try to help you out the best we can. I've been in Colorado for several years. There's a lot of tips. There's a lot of tricks that you can use with this process. We covered a lot in previous videos. If you're someone who wants to know how to get a tag and a preference point in the same year, we got a video about that. If you're watching today and the primary draw is over and you need to know how to get into the secondary draw, we're going to have a video on that. But other than that, that's going to conclude our video. I hope it helps you get out there. Now that you have all the information you need to draw a tag Colorado, we wish you luck on your next adventure. And please remember, we all share public lands and we need to support ours.